Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. The pot slipped from my hands as my toddler shrieked in his high chair. Boiling water hit the floor and my stomach dropped with it. I am Jenna, 30 years old, and that was the exact second everything cracked. Behind me, the television hummed and my fiance did not move an inch. For a stupid moment, I honestly thought he had not noticed the disaster. My kid started that choppy, panicked cry toddlers do when they sense chaos. I stepped back fast, slipped a little, caught myself on the counter with one hand. I checked his face for splashes while my heart hammered like it wanted out. Nothing hit him and I exhaled, but my legs shook harder after the danger passed. I waited for Ethan to jump up and ask if we were okay. He did not even lean forward, just turned the volume down a tiny notch. He just goes, "You good?" like this was nothing important. I stared at him for a second because I honestly thought I misheard. "Water is all over the floor, and you ask if I am good." My voice came out sharp without planning, the kind of tone that usually means trouble later. Back then, I still worried more about being nice than about drowning in expectations. Ethan finally clicked the remote and looked over, like I was interrupting his show. "Relax, babe, it is just water. You probably scared him more than the spill did." He jerked his chin toward our son, who was still sobbing in little gasps. I picked the kid up and my shirt stuck to my skin, everything inside buzzing with leftover fear. He could see my hands shaking, yet he sat there like this was basic maintenance. I am the one who cooks so accidents happen, that was his logic then. I wiped the floor with a dish towel, heart still sprinting, mind already rehearsing the fight. "Do you seriously think I can watch him make dinner and dodge boiling water alone?" My voice cracked a little unseriously, which bothered me more than the mess. I hate sounding dramatic even when everything is actually on fire inside me. Ethan shrugged like we had discussed this 100 times already, and I just forgot. "We already talked about this, Jenna, you handle the house stuff." He spoke slowly like he was reminding a child of posted rules. "You do the home and kid things so I can concentrate on earning." Hearing my life called things made something twist in my chest and stay there. "I also have a job, Ethan. I was on my laptop earlier. I do calls during nap time and send emails while stirring sauce. There is no universe where that counts as not working." My voice climbed without my permission, which always makes him roll his eyes. Sure enough, he did it right then, and my cheeks burned hot. "You are not the one carrying this relationship financially, that is me." He spread his arms a little like the room should clap for him. "I bring in the money so you can have flexibility with your schedule. You wanted that, remember, you hated office life and commuting." At that point, I believed him because I wanted to believe the story about us. The thing is, my paycheck had started matching his months before this explosion. Not higher than his yet, but no longer a small side contribution. I opened my mouth to say it and tasted fear instead of words. There is a special kind of silence when you realize you might start a war, your own. I chose the smaller battle and hated myself for that choice immediately. Ethan leaned back into the cushions again like the conversation had already been settled his way. "Anyway, my job is killing me, and it barely covers anything these days." He grabbed his phone and scrolled while talking, which somehow made it worse. "I have been thinking about dropping to fewer hours so I do not burn out." He smiled a little at his own idea, and I felt completely invisible in my kitchen. "So you want me to handle everything here while you earn less money out there?" I tried to keep my tone steady because yelling never works with him. "You want full-time support at home with part-time income from you." Saying it out loud made the math sound insane, which was honestly helpful. For a second, he actually blinked like the thought bumped into his brain. He shook it off fast and laughed, short and annoyed, like I had told a dumb joke. "You are twisting this on purpose, you know I am trying my best here. Most guys would not even offer to work less so they could be around more." He framed the whole conversation like he was sacrificing for his family, and I was ungrateful. I looked at the wet floor under my bare feet and felt that word stick to me. That night will always be the one I replay when people ask what changed. Nothing exploded exactly, yet something small and solid snapped in my head. I saw the pattern, him resting while I scrambled, him talking about future money that never existed. My kid clung to my shoulder, and I felt more alone than when I was single. I did not know it yet, but the engagement started dying right there on that wet tile. The next morning, I opened my phone instead of my mouth. No lecture, no speech, just a fresh note titled Hours. My kid was already whining for breakfast while Ethan scrolled in bed. I typed 6:10 wake up with toddler and hit save with my thumb. It felt petty and also like loading a weapon I did not understand yet. I fed the baby and kept tapping quick lines between bites. Change diaper. Pack bag. Wipe table. Every tiny task looked dumb on the screen, yet my shoulders burned anyway. Ethan wandered into the kitchen stretching like he had run a marathon. What are you doing on your phone this early? Tracking my day. I grabbed a bib and tried to sound casual, like this was no big deal. He smirked, kissed our kid once, then walked off to shower without another word. When he left for work, he called out that he was on the grind. Door shut, baby on my hip, laptop on the counter buzzing with reminders. I started my work timer at the same moment I opened my email. 9:02 start shift, I wrote, watching both my child and my inbox explode. I remember thinking if I dropped anything today it would be my brain. The whole day turned into a stupid race against the note in my hand. 30 minutes of focused work, then a meltdown over a missing toy. I logged both and hated that parenting and paid labor sat on one list. At lunch I added wash dishes and prep snacks and answer client chat. By nap time my eyes stung and the note already filled most of the screen. I almost deleted everything around 3 when the guilt kicked in hard. It felt sneaky and obsessive, like stalking my own life for proof. Who tracks takeout trash when there are bigger problems everywhere? Then my kid woke up early and I lost the chance to overthink. Instead I added meeting cut short because toddler screaming and kept going. Ethan came home that night talking about some new drama at his job. He dropped his keys, kicked off his shoes, and asked what we had for dinner. I stared at the sink, then at my phone glowing with my secret tally. Whatever I can throw together fast, I answered, hearing the edge in my voice. I tucked the phone under a stack of mail before he could notice the list. After bedtime, I sat on the couch while he played on his console. He shouted at someone through his headset about strategy and effort. I scrolled through my day and counted the lines one by one. Work hours plus housework plus kid care blurred into one long block. I powered off the phone when I realized I had not written his name once. The next day I started earlier without even thinking about it. 5:48 wake to soothe toddler. The numbers hurt more than the lack of sleep did. My thumb moved faster now, as if afraid the minutes would run away. I knew exactly why I was doing it, even while pretending I did not. Midweek I tested myself just to see if I was exaggerating. I tried leaving certain chores off the note, only logging bigger tasks. By noon I was drowning, even with half my work invisible on purpose. I added back the missing pieces and the list doubled in 2 hours. That was the moment I stopped worrying that I might be unfair to him. On Thursday, Ethan mentioned grabbing drinks with coworkers after his shift. He tossed it out while tying his shoes like it was nothing. Can you manage bedtime solo again? You are better at it anyway. The word again hit harder than anything else in that sentence. When the door closed, I wrote bedtime alone, plus everything before and after. That evening, my hand actually cramped from holding my phone so much. I took a break, looked around, and forced myself not to tidy anything. Ethan came back cheerful, loosened his tie, and asked why the place looked bad. My throat tightened and I went very quiet, which always unnerved him more than yelling. I am doing an experiment, I said, and left it hanging there between us. He laughed uneasy, then changed the topic to some new idea for his career. While he talked, I opened my note under the table and added his hours. Start time, end time, commute, break. He used to scroll memes and videos. I gave him every benefit of the doubt, and still the numbers slanted. Even with generous guesses, I was outworking him in every direction. By Friday night, my list for the week looked almost ridiculous. Lines and times and little arrows where things overlapped and crashed. I added one last entry after loading the dishwasher half asleep. 2307 Cleanup Day, brain fried. That last part was not a task, but I wrote it anyway. I sat with the phone and started adding everything up slowly. Paid hours for me. Paid hours for him. Then all the unpaid labor that somehow belonged to me by default. When the final totals showed on the screen, I actually felt a little sick. I locked my phone and stared at Ethan snoring on the couch. The sound used to comfort me, now it just underlined the silence. I knew he would hate seeing his life turned ent. Oh, numbers on a page. I also knew I could not keep pretending we were splitting the load. So I slid the phone under my pillow and promised myself I would show him soon, no matter how ugly that conversation turned. I slid my phone across the table hard enough to rattle his fork. The hours are all there. My voice came out tighter than I wanted, but I did not pull it back. Ethan barely glanced down, then pushed the phone back with one finger. I am not doing this spreadsheet argument, he muttered, and my pulse kicked up. I pulled the phone closer, tapped the note open, and started reading. Monday, I worked 8 hours plus 10 with the baby in house. My throat trembled, so I forced each word out slow. You logged 6 at your job that day, 0 at home. He scoffed and leaned back, chair creaking like it was annoyed too. You are counting everything you do as labor now. He ran his hand over his face, then aimed his stare straight at me. So feeding our kid is a billable task in your mind. I hated the way my cheeks flared because that always made me doubt myself. Yes, because if I do not do it, we pay someone else to do it. He let out a short, harsh laugh that did not match his eyes. That is such corporate brain talking right now. He tapped the screen with his knuckles, like the numbers insulted him. This is our home, not some office performance review. The words stung mostly because I used to believe that line too. I scrolled down and read another day before he could stop me. Wednesday, I clocked 9 paid hours plus 9 unpaid here. You did 7 at work and then you watched videos all evening. My palms were slick against the phone case, but I did not pause. If this looks wrong to you, tell me where. Ethan shifted forward, elbows on the table, jaw tight. You are twisting this into something ugly on purpose. He glanced toward the hallway where our kid was napping, then back. You know my job drains me in a way yours never will. That old line landed between us again, heavier now that I had data. My job pays close to yours now. The words finally left my mouth and I felt my stomach swoop. I put in more hours and bring in almost the same income. I watched him, waiting for some flicker of surprise or pride. Instead, his lips thinned like I had just cursed him out. So now you want to brag that you almost out-earned me. He shoved his chair back a little, not quite standing, just larger. You know what that does to a man, hearing that in his own kitchen. He shook his head, exhaling like I had just pulled something cruel. It is like you want to drag me down so you can feel big. I almost backed off right there because I hate confrontation. That old voice in my head whispered that I had gone too far. I pictured myself closing the note, apologizing, letting him calm down. Then I remembered waking before sunrise every day that week. That is not what I want, I said, hands steady for once. I want honesty about who carries what around here. I pushed the phone toward him again, softer now, more direct. You keep telling me my main role is this house and our child. But these numbers show I run 2 full-time jobs while you relax. My heart hammered so loud I almost missed his next words. You are not my supervisor, Jenna. His fingers curled around the chair, knuckles pale, shoulders rigid. I will not sit here while you audit my life like I am your employee. He finally grabbed the phone and stared at the list, breathing hard. Watching him read my week felt like handing him my spine. He scanned down the entries, face closed, eyes sharp. Every time he hit his own line, his nostrils flared a little. You even counted my break at work as nothing, he snapped. You have no idea what those hours feel like in my head. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted metal because I did no stress. He tossed the phone onto the table with a dull slap. This is not about fairness, this is about you resenting me. He pointed toward the sink full of dishes without looking at it. You started tracking all this the minute I mentioned reducing my hours. That was when I realized he had heard that part louder than anything else. Yes, because if you cut back, this gap gets even worse. I tapped the totals at the bottom, one for me, one for him. If you want fewer work hours, then you pick up more here. Or we use my increase to fund actual childcare and cleaning help. I kept my tone flat, but inside everything shook. You really want to outsource our kids so you can chase money? He laughed again, a dry sound, no humor, just accusation. You are willing to pay strangers instead of letting me be around more. He angled his body away, arms crossed, like I was something dangerous. You are choosing your precious job over our family. That line cut deeper than any comment about money. For a second I did not breathe because the guilt hit fast. Images flashed through my mind, our toddler reaching for us bedtime stories. Then another image forced its way in, me alone scrubbing bottles at midnight. I am choosing not to burn out so hard I disappear, I answered. He stood up, chair scraping back with a harsh sound. I am done talking about this, he announced, staring past me. You can keep your little time diary if it makes you feel righteous. He grabbed his keys from the counter, movements sharp and jerky. I am going for a drive before I say something I regret. The door slammed and the house went too quiet, except my heartbeat. I sank into his empty chair and stared at the totals again. The numbers did not care that he felt attacked, they just existed. I locked the phone, unlocked it, then locked it again, fingers trembling. I wished I could unread my own week, but I could not. Later that night, I opened our banking app to pay a bill. My chest tightened when I saw the balance lower than expected. I frowned, checked the date, then checked again because I doubted myself. Nothing major had hit recently, just the usual rent and utilities. Something felt off, buzzing at the edge of my thoughts. I drilled into the recent activity and started scrolling. At first it was the normal stuff, supermarket, gas station, small charges. Then a chunkier payment popped up with a name I did not recognize. Under that, another one, same company, same week. A slow dread climbed up as I kept sliding my finger down the screen. There were subscriptions I had never agreed to, billed every month. More charges for equipment from some online shop, stacked close together. All of it pulled from the joint account, never once mentioned to me. I remembered Ethan complaining about feeling broke and overworked. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt, and still I scrolled. I clicked one of the transactions and stared at the description. The notes mentioned premium membership and creator tools and extra perks. Pieces of old conversations snapped into place, his talk about side projects. He had framed those ideas as dreams, not as things he had already funded. My face burned with a mix of anger and humiliation. I backed out and checked the time. He still was not home. My thumb hovered over the screenshot button, then pressed it 3 times. I added each image to a new note right under my hours tally. Work, childcare, housework, and now hidden spending, all in one place. For the first time, the word partnership felt like a joke I had not been in on. When the door finally opened, he moved quietly, like nothing happened. Keys on the counter, shoes off, a quick glance toward the hallway. You asleep? He called out softly, not stepping fully into the room. I stayed still, phone under my palm, heart thudding in my throat. I realized I did not trust my own voice to come out calm if I answered. I dropped the phone on the coffee table with the banking screen open. The money is all right there. My voice came out rough and way too loud for how late it was. He flinched, then squinted at the screen like he hoped he misread. I knew exactly when he found the first unfamiliar charge because his jaw twitched. What is this company name? He poked the screen with his thumb, then glanced at me fast. Why are you digging so deep into our account? My heartbeat slammed around, but I kept my arms folded. Because the balance is low and you keep talking about cutting your hours. He sucked in a slow breath and leaned back like he needed more space. That one is equipment for content, for the channel idea I told you about. He tapped another line with premium in the description and shrugged. And that is a subscription so I can actually grow something long-term. He talked like he was explaining a brilliant portfolio and not unpaid bills. So these are investments now. I heard how flat I sounded and did not fix it. You spent hundreds without a word while I stretched groceries to payday. I watched his face for any sign of regret and saw stubborn pride instead. You keep framing hobbies as business and our account keeps bleeding. His hands opened and closed like he wanted to grab the air. This is not some random hobby, this is my exit from that soul-crushing job. He nodded toward the phone as if the proof sat in the transactions. You want me happier, right? Less exhausted and frustrated when I get home. I almost laughed because the timing felt like a cruel joke. You want out of your job, you want fewer hours there. I pointed at the screen, then around the room, then at myself. You also want me running every domestic thing while you chase a maybe. For that to work, I would need to earn more or we drown. I could hear my voice shaking, but the logic stayed clear. He leaned forward, forearms on his knees, eyes locked on mine. That is exactly why I need you to scale back, not ramp up. He held my gaze like he dared me to look away. You are supposed to be the steady one for our kid, the anchor at home. The word supposed made my stomach turn because I never chose that script. I am already steady, you are confusing busy with unreliable. I straightened my shoulders, even sitting down made that feel important. Our child gets fed, clean, loved, on time for everything because I juggle all of it. If anyone here is an anchor, it is the person keeping this place running. His features tightened like I had slapped him in front of an audience. Do you hear yourself right now? He let out a short, bitter laugh, no humor in it at all. You sound like you want a gold star for basic parenting. He shook his head and pointed at the phone like it betrayed him. Meanwhile, you are gutting my confidence by turning our life into bills and tallies. I felt my face heat up because a part of me believed that for years. I used to think asking for credit made me selfish and ungrateful. Now all I could see were those secret payments stacked under my labor. This is not about praise, this is about survival and respect. I pressed my fingertips into the table to stop them from trembling. He glanced at the screenshots again, jaw clenched, eyes darting. I did not tell you because I knew you would freak out like this. He dropped that line like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. I wanted something that was mine, something that could actually pay off later. There it was, that quiet little confession that hurt more than the spending. Something that is yours using our shared account while I keep things afloat. I heard my own laugh come out harsh and a little broken. You could have started with a conversation instead of a surprise invoice. I waved at the list of fees, my hands shaking despite how angry I felt. You do not get to gamble our safety because you need a private project. His eyes flashed and he stood up too fast, chair scraping behind him. You act like I am some reckless teenager blowing money at the mall. He paced a short line across the living room, palms flexing, shoulders tight. I am trying to create something bigger so you do not have to work so much. That sentence sounded generous out loud, and still my chest went cold. You keep saying you do not want me working so much. I took a breath, slow, because this next part felt like stepping off a ledge. You never say you want to work more or carry more of this household. You want to be the visionary while I scrub the day away. His mouth opened, then closed, like there was no clean answer. He finally dragged his hands through his hair, frustration in every line. This is not about chores, this is about roles, about what fits who. He dropped back into the chair and leaned toward me, eyes intense. You thrive with structure, with routines, with the kid, you are good at it. You do not even like office politics that come with career ladders. I felt that last part land because honestly, he was not wrong. I hate small talk and networking and pretending to care at fake events. For a second, I almost slid right into his narrative, where I stayed home smiling. Then I pictured my phone note, the hours stacked on my spine. I am good at it does not mean I must be buried in it, I answered. He rubbed his forehead like he had a pounding headache. Listen, here's what I see long term. His tone shifted into that pitch voice he used for big ideas. I pull back a bit from the 9 to 5 grind and grow this side business. You taper your job to something more flexible and really pour into our kid. That sounds suspiciously like you work less and I give up options. I could hear something cracking inside me, like a rope overstrained. You earn less at your regular job while none of this creative stuff pays yet. Meanwhile, I shrink my income, let go of my independence, and take on more homework. Walk me through how that is not a direct hit to me and our child. He spread his hands like he was laying out a simple equation. Because once my project blows up, we will have real money, not just salaries. He said it with this stubborn glow, like the outcome was guaranteed. You will not have to worry about tracking minutes or begging me for help then. I will cover everything, and you can finally relax into being a mom. That line made my skin prickle in a way I could not ignore. Relax into being a mom. Like motherhood was a spa package I had been too stubborn to enjoy. In reality, I could not remember the last time my shoulders unclenched. This is not about me rejecting motherhood, this is about you adding chains to it. His eyes narrowed, hurt mixing with something darker. So you think my dream is a chain? He let the words hang there before he pushed harder. You do understand what happens to families where the woman out-earns the man. He shook his head slowly, like he had seen terrible examples everywhere. I swallowed, feeling that familiar guilt crawl up my neck. What happens? The question sounded smaller than I wanted, but I needed to hear his version. He looked right at me, no softness at all in his expression. Resentment, affairs, divorce, men shut down when they feel useless. I stared at him, trying to process the twisted warning he had just given. So your solution to that fear is for me to stunt my life on purpose? For me to earn less than you and shoulder more of the unpaid grind? That way your ego stays safe and you will not abandon us. My voice dropped on that last word because I realized that was the threat. He scoffed, eyes flashing, but did not deny it. I am telling you what protects us in the long run. You building some empire while I watch our kid makes no sense. He jerked his chin toward the hallway where our toddler slept. That little guy needs his mom home, not chasing promotions. He needs two stable adults who can pay the bills and show up. My words came faster now, like a dam finally cracked open. If you want to scale your risk, you handle more diapers, more dishes, more nights. You build your dream between feedings and vacuuming the way I build mine. If you want me home, you need to meet me there in the chaos. Silence dropped between us, heavy, awkward, full of unsaid curses. He looked at me like I had betrayed some sacred rule he never actually stated. You want a roommate, not a husband, he whispered, voice low and harsh. You want someone to split chores with you like you are in a dorm. I almost laughed because at that point, a functional roommate sounded incredible. I want a partner who understands money has to come from somewhere real. I gestured toward the banking screen, all those charges glaring up at us. Right now you are draining our account and calling it faith in the future. Then you expect me to cheer while I sign away my safety net. I knew my hands were shaking, but I did not tuck them away this time. He stared at the phone, then at me, then back down again. When he finally spoke, his tone was calm in a way that scared me. If you trusted me, you would not need all these numbers and screenshots. If you believed in my vision, you would back off work and let me lead. Hearing the word lead knocked the wind out of whatever hope I still had. In that moment, I saw exactly where his plan placed me. Not beside him, not even one step behind, more like locked into the background. The woman who makes every appointment, wipes every spill, smiles for every photo. While he chases projects funded by money I helped earn but never controlled. I nodded once, very small, because fighting him right then felt pointless. Out loud I only said, "We are not agreeing tonight." I reached across the table, grabbed my phone and ended the banking app. He watched my hand like it held a weapon I might use again. "We will talk more," he muttered, already turning toward the couch. I walked away with my heart hammering, knowing the next talk would decide more than he realized. The daycare number flashed on my screen in the middle of a meeting. For a second I hoped it was some minor form thing. I stepped away from my laptop, hit accept, tried to sound calm. "Your little one has a fever and he is miserable. Someone needs to come now." My throat went dry while my brain sprinted through every bad outcome. I opened the Maps app with shaky hands. Ethan's office sat 10 minutes from the daycare, mine was almost 30. I shot him a text so fast my fingers slipped on the keys. "Daycare emergency, you are closer, can you grab him?" I stared at the typing dots that never actually appeared. Daycare pinged again while I waited for a reply that did not come. "Is someone on the way? He is crying hard." I glanced at my empty chat with Ethan and wanted to throw my phone. "Yes, I'm coming, I'm leaving now." I ended the call and marched back to my laptop like I had not just aged 10 years. I have to go, my kid is sick, I will finish this later. The words came out clipped and loud enough that everyone heard. I killed my camera before they could answer anything sympathetic. My hands shook as I closed everything with no real plan. I knew I would catch heat for leaving, I went anyway. Halfway to the door, my phone buzzed with Ethan's message. Can you handle pickup? I cannot lose hours today. No apology, no question, just that flat little refusal on my screen. I stopped walking for 1 second and people bumped around me. Then I kept moving because my kid was somewhere screaming for me. The drive felt longer than it probably was. Every red light made my nerves spike and my jaw ache. I kept checking the time at every stop out of pure panic. Ethan's text sat open on the passenger seat, daring me to read it again. By the time I parked, I had chewed a raw line in my cheek. When they brought him out, his face was blotchy and hot. He sagged against my shoulder with that heavy sick why. "HD kids gat." He whimpered "mama," and something inside me snapped in a clean line. I wrapped him up, grabbed the bag, signed whatever they handed me. On the way out, I texted Ethan again with one hand. Got him. I left work in the middle of a meeting. I stared at the message, then added, "We will talk tonight." I almost added more, something softer, then deleted the last sentence. He sent back a thumbs up emoji and nothing else. I laughed out loud in the parking lot because the rage needed somewhere to go. Back home, my kid shivered on the couch and clung to me. I set up a sick day nest and watched his eyelids droop. My laptop chimed with emails that I ignored on purpose. For once, I let the guilt about work sit behind the anger. Because I knew exactly who should have done that drive today. Hours later, Ethan finally walked through the door. He glanced at our son, checked his phone, then looked over at me. "How bad is it? Did you call his doctor?" I gave a short update, fever, medicine, the usual drill. Then I pointed at my closed laptop on the table. I left in the middle of a presentation today. My voice sounded calm, which surprised me more than him. I took the hit at my job because you would not leave yours. I watched his shoulders lift and drop in a quick annoyed shrug. "Jenna, I am hanging on by a thread at work right now." He kicked off his shoes like he had survived something huge. "If I walk out early, they dock my hours, they remember it later." He gestured toward the couch, toward our sleeping toddler. "You work remote, you can make up time tonight or tomorrow." He said it like this was some obvious team strategy I had missed. I also work with humans who notice when I vanish mid-sentence. I folded my arms, not even pretending to relax anymore. "You were 10 minutes away, and I was across town on video. You chose your image at work over a sick kid wailing for someone." His eyes flashed for a second before he looked away. "You are acting like I abandoned him in a parking lot." He grabbed a glass from the counter with more force than needed. "I stayed because I am already on thin ice there. If I get fired, what then? You going to cover everything yourself?" He tossed the question out like a trap I had better dodge. The miserable part was I knew his job was rough. I also knew I would probably pick up extra shifts if he lost it. That did not change the picture in my head from earlier. My phone lighting up with daycare, his name on the map so close. And that little text, "I cannot lose hours today. We are already covering almost everything together," by which I mean me. I kept my tone measured, which took more effort than yelling. I take the blows at home and at work whenever something hits. You act like stepping in once will topple your whole world. He rolled his eyes so hard I felt it across the room. You always exaggerate your load when we fight. He took a long drink and set the glass down hard. I work full-time, I am planning business stuff, I am exhausted. You treat me like some lazy guy who naps while you scrub floors. I bit down on the urge to point at the game controller near his chair. I am done arguing about how tired you are. My hands shook then steadied as I placed them on the back of the couch. This is bigger than dishes or daycare pickups at this point. My voice dropped without my permission, though I meant every word. I am not walking into a marriage on these terms. He froze mid-movement, like someone had hit a mute button. What did you just say? His eyes flicked to my left hand, then up to my face again. I took a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. The wedding is on hold until this actually changes. Silence stretched between us while my heartbeat pounded in my ears. He laughed once, short and sharp, like I had told a ridiculous joke. "You are threatening our engagement because I could not leave work today." He spread his arms, looking around like an invisible crowd should agree. "Do you hear how wild that sounds out loud? It is not just today, it is the pattern today highlighted." I moved around the couch so nothing sat between us but air. "You want to cut hours, you want me at home more, you hide spending. You let me take every emergency hit while you protect your comfort. I will not sign vows on top of this imbalance." He stared at me like I had morphed into a stranger in our living room. "So what, you want a list of demands now, like a contract?" His voice dropped rougher, almost shaking. "Spell it out then, since you have everything calculated already." He leaned forward, waiting for something he could slice apart. "Fine." My throat felt tight, but the words came anyway. "No wedding date until we get outside help, counseling, something neutral. No wedding until we agree on money rules and both follow them. And no wedding while I carry the house and the kid almost alone." "Hey." Stared at the floor, then at my hand, then at our son. When he finally spoke again, his voice had a harsh edge. "You would blow up your family over therapy and chore charts. You would rather call off a wedding than trust me to figure it out." It stung because a year earlier I might have backed down right there. Respect is part of a family, not an extra. I pointed toward our sick toddler, curled up and sniffly. "He deserves parents who show up for him and for each other. I am telling you where my line is before I cross it and regret staying." Saying that out loud scared me more than his anger did. He grabbed his keys off the table so fast they almost slid away. "You know what, maybe I need space from this insanity." He yanked open the closet, pulled out a bag, started tossing clothes in. "I will stay at my brother's place for a bit until you calm down." Every zipper and thud of fabric sounded like a door closing. "You are really walking out on the night your kid is sick." My voice rose for the first time and cracked in the middle. "You are leaving him and me because I asked for basic partnership." He paused for half a breath at the word leaving, then kept packing. "That is not what this is me protecting my sanity." He dragged the bag to the door while I stood by the couch. Our son shifted in his sleep and let out a weak little cough. Ethan looked over his shoulder once, face tight, eyes unreadable. "You pushed this too far, remember that," he muttered. Then the door closed behind him and the house felt brutally still. I sat down slowly so I would not jostle the kid tucked against me. My phone buzzed a few minutes later with a long paragraph. He wrote about needing a reset, about me humiliating him with numbers. He called the pause on the wedding emotional blackmail dressed as boundaries. I read every word twice, then put the phone face down. I watched my child breathe, warm forehead pressed into my side. Somewhere in another part of the city, my fiance slept on a spare couch. I knew he expected me to apologize first, to beg him to come home. Instead, I stroked my son's hair and listened to the quiet. For the first time, I let myself wonder if the pause on the wedding might need to be permanent. I was scrubbing bottles when my phone buzzed again on the counter. A new wall of text from him slid over the lock screen. Words like destroying our family and overreacting and cold jumped out. My hands were wet, my back ached, my kid finally slept. I stood there frozen between the sink and the phone like an idiot. I dried my fingers and opened the messages anyway. He wrote that the separation was my choice alone and he was just giving space. He said I had emasculated him with those hours and screenshots. He insisted he still wanted our original plan, me home, him providing. Apparently calling off the wedding talk was me blowing up years of loyalty. I typed and erased a dozen replies before sending one short line. "We will talk when you can acknowledge the imbalance, not before." I watched the typing dots pop in and out, then vanish. No response came, just the quiet hum of the fridge and my heartbeat. I picked up the next bottle because the night still needed to move. The first morning alone felt weirdly efficient and heavy at the same time. No extra body on the couch, no second mug on the table. Just me hustling between cereal, emails, and a clingy toddler. I kept waiting for the familiar resentment to creep in. Instead, there was this flat, tired calm that scared me more. I noticed it again the next day during a tantrum over the wrong snack. My kid was wailing, juice on the floor, work pinging every few minutes. I handled it without that frantic anger I used to swallow. There was no one to glare at for not getting up to help. No silent contest over who was more tired, just me doing the thing. Do not get me wrong, it was exhausting and lonely. By the third night my back hurt and my eyes stung. But the mental noise had dropped in a way I could not deny. No running commentary from the couch about my tone or attitude. No negotiations over whose job counted more in that moment. He filled the silence with long messages instead of his physical presence. One afternoon he wrote that his brother thought I needed to cool off. Another night he listed everything he had done for us in the past. Then came the classic line, plenty of women would kill to stay home. I stared at that last sentence until my vision burned. I did not answer that one for a full day. Instead I texted a friend and asked if she could talk. We hopped on a quick call while my kid watched cartoons. She listened and then asked one simple question that gutted me. If nothing ever changes, can you live like this at 50? The image hit harder than any of his speeches ever had. Me at that age still writing notes about chores and hours. Still arguing with a man who, though my boundaries threatened him. Still paying for dreams he never actually turned into income. I knew the answer before she even finished the question. At work my manager pulled me aside after a busy morning. You handled that emergency with your kid and still nailed your tasks. I know you left in a hurry, but you caught up fast. It was a small comment, nothing dramatic, just professional respect. I walked back to my desk feeling more like an adult than a burden. Later that week, Ethan asked to come over to talk face to face. He said he missed our child and wanted to see him. I told him he could come by after bedtime so we could focus. Part of me worried I was walking into another guilt storm. Another part already knew I needed the conversation to end something. He arrived with that tense, almost hopeful look he used during big apologies. He hugged our kid for a long time. To his credit, he looked soft then. After story time and goodnight kisses, we moved into the kitchen. He leaned against the counter like he lived there, like nothing had shifted. So are we done with the games? He asked, eyes locked on mine. This is not a game, I answered, my voice low but steady. He launched into his pitch before I could shape the next sentence. He was willing to try harder with chores as long as I dropped the stats. He would cut some subscriptions if I stopped policing the account. And he wanted the wedding back on the calendar before the year ended. It sounded like a discount version of compromise that still centered him. Every offer had a hook buried inside it, always leading back to my surrender. So you will help more as long as I stop measuring anything. You will spend less if I let you call the shots again. You come home and nothing actually changes under the surface. His jaw tightened, but he forced a calm tone. I am saying we both messed this up and we both adjust. You stop treating me like a project manager, I stop overspending. We get counseling if you want, I am open to that now. But calling off the wedding was way out of line. Hearing him say was like it was a past mistake hit me wrong. I looked down at the ring on my finger, still sitting pretty. It felt heavy in a way it never had before all this. I twisted it once, then slid it off very carefully. His eyes followed the movement like a slow car crash. I am not postponing anymore, I said, hand flat on the table. I am ending it. The words came out clean, no shaking, which surprised even me. His face went blank for a second, like his mind needed a reboot. Then the anger flooded back so fast it almost looked rehearsed. You are breaking our engagement because you do not want to be a real mom. The sentence landed like a punch in the throat. He pushed away from the counter, pacing a tight line across the floor. You care more about your career and your little spreadsheets than your family. Do you realize what people will think? People are not the ones doing daycare runs and budget triage. I was shaking now, but the words kept coming anyway. I am not choosing work over family, I am choosing stability over collapse. I am not agreeing to a life where I drown while you chase potential. I tapped the ring once on the table, a sharp little knock. He stared at it like it might jump up and apologize for me. No man will sign up for this, he snapped, voice rising. No guy wants a woman who out-earns him and keeps score. You are setting yourself up to be alone with a kid. There it was, the threat dressed up as a prediction. Maybe old me would have folded right there. The version of me who thought being chosen mattered more than being safe. The one who would have begged him to stay for the child's sake. Instead, I pictured my notes, my bank screenshots, that daycare call. I realized I already felt more like a parent now than a fiancé. I am already alone in most of this, I said quietly. I am just making the paperwork match reality. He opened his mouth again, then shut it when he saw my face. He grabbed the ring, stared at it, then shoved it into his pocket. I hope your independence keeps you warm, he muttered on his way out. When the door shut this time, the silence felt different. Not light, not joyful, just honest. No one else's mood filling the rooms, no second phone buzzing. Just dishes, laundry, a small kid breathing softly down the hall. And my own heartbeat finally slowing instead of racing. I did a couple of very unglamorous things right after. I opened our banking app and removed his automatic access to certain cards. I canceled the extra subscriptions I recognized from his investments. I wrote down what we still owed together so nothing surprised me later. It felt less like revenge and more like finally locking the front door. Much later, after another round of bottle washing and one last fever check, I sat down. The couch felt huge with just me on tea and a baby monitor. My phone rested in my hand, heavier than it should for its size. I opened the Reddit app almost on autopilot, thumb hovering over create post. Then I started typing everything you have just read, piece by piece. I told strangers on the internet about the hours, the money, the sick day. About the ring on the table and the bag at the door. About a man who wanted full support without matching effort or income. And about a woman who finally said no before signing her name to it. So now I am here asking you, did I just wreck my family or finally give my child and myself a real chance?